Hello and welcome, one and all, to the penultimate episode, unless they decide to wrap up 47 with an epilogue episode of Kamen Rider Saber. And we are on episode 45, 10 Swordsmen Betting the World. This is a big fight episode, so this is a pretty good one, because, it's all fighting, and honestly, as much as Saber's plot has, wavered and all kinds of mess, the fight scenes have been pretty top tier. So, let's talk about it, shall we? Alright, so our episode begins following the events of last week's episode, where the 10 swordsmen, or the 9, because the 10th one just joins them at the very end of it all, are there. For those of you who don't remember who our 9 or later 10 swordsmen are, we have Kamen Rider Saber as Toma, Kamen Rider Blades as Rentaro, Kamen Rider Espada as Kento, Kamen Rider Buster, Ryo, Kamen Rider Kienzan, Ren, Kamen Rider Slash, Tetsuo, a new Kamen Rider Caliber with Sophia as she takes up the Kamen Rider Caliber role, Kamen Rider Saikyo as Yuri, Kamen Rider Sabella, Reika Shindai, and Kamen Rider Durandal, Ryoga Shindai, or the Shindai siblings as I like to refer to them, because they typically work as a unit compared to basically everyone else. And they're going to climb up the tower to kick the ass of Kamen Rider Storious, aka Storious, and, stop him from ending the world. And we do also get a glimpse of Storious' motivations in this episode. But first, big fight. So obviously, we have the big fight intro. Everyone's fighting in their base form as they basically fight the mooks from the movie. I remember we had some early season mooks, but I'm not 100% these were the same mooks. Now let me check. I think they were different types, or at least they look different. The shimmy mooks. They rarely use these guys too. No, those are the same designs. It's just that some have the little cloak thing and some don't. I'm looking up the images as I'm doing this just to make sure. They're also apparently based on silverfish, which makes sense considering that there was a bunch of swarming mooks. Anyway, Yuri and Sophia decide to basically let everyone into the tower. They'll clear away for everybody because, swords of light and darkness. And I honestly think it was a missed opportunity to give Yuri a kind of combined light and dark form. Because God forbid we give anyone the ability to wield two swords besides Ren. Doesn't even get a form from that. And so, again, this is basically pulling a Evolt because he wants the heroes to get in his tower, but he also wants to throw every obstacle he can at them. But unlike Evolt, who was doing it with sadistic glee, with his random black holes every, 30 minutes or so? Storious is just doing it to be a dick. It's like, I know you want to fight Toma, because you need him to be the hero to end your story, but, it would be a bit more effective if you didn't keep throwing enemies at Toma to fight, This isn't I want you to grow stronger now. This is just I want you to reach me so I can kick your ass. It's kind of weird that he keeps doing it. Anyways, Sophia and Yuri are dealing with the mooks, and inside, I can't tell them apart because they look so similar. Like, I know they have different weapons, but I'm not gonna shuffle through all their weapons to figure out which of the dudes each group is gonna end up fighting. I'm blanking on names again. The Lords of Wise. You know what? I'm going to pull up their little entry so I can maybe tell them apart. I don't remember which one fought which anyway, so I guess that's not pointless. Anyway, the group splits up to fight the Lords of Wise as they encounter the first one, which is dealt with by Daishinji and Ren, who take off to deal with it, and let the other one sneak by. Second floor, they encounter the next Lord of Wise, and so Blaze, Rentaro and Ryo take off to deal with that one, and then, next Lord of Wise, because, each floor is a different Lord of Wise, the Shindai siblings, let the group through, let Toma and Kento through so that, they can take it on, and then Toma and Kento get to the last floor and fight in the fourth Lord of Wise, as one would expect. And, fights from there. It's pretty epic. The group on the back foot. And then we cut back to the first floor. Well, we cut back to the outside. And Sophia is on the back foot before she gets a bit of a spiritual boost by the spirits of the previous Calibers, Kento's dad, and Daichi, who was the Caliber from the beginning of the series. They appear in her, I guess, mental world or something. They spirit project themselves into her, and they basically give her a boost so that she can deliver the final blow and fight back against the rest of the Horde. Yuri says that this was one final thing from Tassel. I mean, Kento's dad we knew Kento's dad was still around as that little fluttering bird thing, which makes it weird that he really hasn't done anything since the debut of Cross Saber. Like, he didn't try to stop Victor's death. But Daisenji, that was a weird one. Zast killed his ass, so I guess maybe because they were already in Wonderworld, Tassel decided to make another spirit birdie thing of him just in case, and his bet turned out. I don't know. It's kind of random. I don't mind it. I actually liked Daisenji, even though he had backwards ass logic. Anyway, so Sophia beats the enemy, but she might be dead? I don't know. She's fading out again. Maybe she used too much power or something. She might be dead, though. Because, she tells Yuri to go on to inside the tower without her. And, more fights in the tower. And Ren does something really cool. Like, I still don't like Ren, but this was actually really cool. Because he uses the Zast Megiddo book, his Altar Ride book, combined with Zast's sword and a Sword of Nothingness, to basically pull off the Calamity Strike move after Daisenji gives him an opening. And he beats one of the Lords of Wise, and it's kind of cool. He goes to check on Daisenji, who tells him just to go on ahead, and then he just does that. We see throughout the rest of the fights, we just see Ren in the background sprinting towards the top of the tower. And Daisenji died. He died clutching his sword, but he might not stay dead because Yuri finds him later, and we remember Yuri has the healing hands. Although considering the fact that Yuri himself is potentially dying, that just makes more sense that with Yuri potentially dying, that he would sacrifice himself to bring Daisenji back because he's from the old world, and as such he will probably end up killing himself, trying to save the life of the newer generation. Although Daisenji's probably the older new generation compared to Yuri. Anyway, so we didn't see Buster and Blaze fighting, and that's kind of a cool sentence to say, Buster and Blaze fighting. And they kind of get the enemy cornered, and then they see Ren pass by, and so Rentaro goes to follow Ren, and, Rio tells him go on ahead. I'm not going to die because I have my son's graduation to look forward to next week, and that's honestly kind of cool. He's probably going to die in the next scene, especially considering the episode preview where we see everyone in their all is lost moment. Ren leaves him. The Shindai siblings are on the back foot, but they get their second win because they don't want to let the other one die, and so they continue their fight, and then ultimately ends with Toma pulls out Cross Saber, because remember throughout this whole episode up until the point he was in base form, pulls out Cross Saber. He probably did this earlier, and transforms the Cross Saber, still loses, and then Ren shows up holding out his sword saying that he'll fight with Kento. So him and Kento fight together, letting Toma get an opening to leave and go to the top floor. So we have the outside moves taken care of. Yuri fighting the dead Daisenji. They're both on the first floor. Buster fighting the second floor boss by himself because he sent Blades on ahead. The Shindai siblings fighting the third floor boss, and Rentaro running up to the fourth floor, and uh, Kento and Ren fighting the fourth floor boss by themselves, as Toma makes his way up to the top floor. Now, I talked about all of our heroes, but our villain is actually up to stuff. He's actually been doing stuff. He's apparently Luna has a connection to him because he has a connection to the Book of Destiny too, and because she is part of said book as well, she has connection to it. So she sends him a version of Zuos and Legiel before they were corrupted, and it's kind of a cool point where he explains his motivation. Basically speaking, he found the Book of Destiny and realized that literally everything, even up to the modern day, was written into the book, and basically it kind of drove him nuts because he doesn't see any of humanity's progress as humanity's own progress, and just sees it as part of the product of the Book of Destiny, and so he wants to erase the world because humans have no free will. Like, it's still a very confusing motivation. It's a very confusing motivation. But hey, at least we get something out of him. But as expected, he was not corrupted by power. He was apparently at some point corrupted by power, but it made him hyper sane, and that's why he's like this now. Yeah, that's weird. Also, May does something. She finds Toma's manuscript that I guess is about the events of the story, and she begins to read it, and then she decides to do something because she was told to stay behind and watch the house, basically. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, but that's basically what she was told to do. But along the way, she also finds Sophia. Remember, she doesn't recognize older Sophia because she's still used to kid Sophia. So they meet, so they see each other, and May's a little confused. And I think this may go somewhere next week, but not now. It's just a dead lead for now, as Toma makes his way to the top floor. And that's the events of the episode. So overall, I ultimately came away liking this episode a lot more than even the last episode. Like, I think the last stretch of episodes have been a few good ones. Like, the last episode was a pretty good, at least for setting up main motivations and trying to give us connection to our characters before the end. For some it worked, for some it didn't. Like, I still don't like Ren. Even though they gave Ren a really cool moment, him using the Calamity Strike, showcasing his bond with Disaster. That was really cool. Still don't like Ren, though. I still find his character to be kind of lacking. But, that's just the fault of the writing and a lot of other stuff. But he still got a cool moment, and I can appreciate that. Him fighting with Kento on the fourth Lord of Wise, that's pretty cool. I imagine they're going to get their ass kicked until Blade shows up, until Rentaro gets up there. As for the Sophia Caliber thing, I'm of two minds about it. For one thing, it feels a bit forced to give Sophia something to do, because they already have May basically watching the house, as one could say. But it does give her something to do, and I'm happy about that. And, it does lead to a pretty cool scene. I do like seeing all the calibers kind of working together in a way. It's kind of cute, and I honestly like the fact that the suits, while the suits have always been kind of gendered, like you tell the female suits from the male suits, like you can obviously see most Rider female suits tend to have like the skirt thing, similar to Sentai in that fact. I do like that, it shows the suits can be, unisex, and I just like that, because it means that, anyone can be a Rider. Even if your favorite writer happens to be a dude, doesn't mean that you can't also be that writer. You can still be that writer even if you're a woman. Or if you like a girl writer, even if you're a dude. Although the girl writer suits are obviously gendered towards girls. Either way, I like it when stuff like that happens. Especially considering the whole secret identity masked writer thing of the series that gets kind of forgotten a lot over time, but it's still cool when it's brought up that anyone can be behind the mask, similar to the whole Spider-Verse message thing. Anyway, Storious' motivations. It feels really fucking weird and random. I kind of like the fact his main motivation is, I was driven insanely sane because I read the Book of Destiny. It's like his whole motivation is humanity has no free will, so I will erase the world to prove humanity either has a free will or can gain free will, or I'm just following a script that was laid out for me in the book. Like, I think it's more the latter than the former, because he does mention that the book does pretell the end of the world, and so he's carrying out said end as that is his story in the book. But it still feels a bit like last minute-y, because it is very much the last minute to give him some form of a motivation to explain his actions. I do like the fights. Obviously, this is a big fight episode, and Saber has had pretty good fights. I do like the fact that everyone gets their ass kicked at least once. I like that we do see Sophia stumbling a bit because she's not used to fighting. It will be weird for her to suddenly be really good at fighting when she hasn't done that at all in the entire series. And yeah, like the only people that really get character moments are Sophia and Ren. Technically, Daishinji gets one when he dies, and Yuri might get one when he maybe sacrifices himself for Daishinji. Speaking of, Daishinji's death scene was kind of sad. Like, it would work better if I liked his character more. Don't get me wrong, I really like Daishinji. Out of our auxiliary writers, I have to say, I like Daishinji and Ryo the most out of our auxiliary writers. So, bad stuff happening to them will be sad, at least a little bit to me. But it's still, he's not my favorite, so his death doesn't hurt that much, but still is kind of sad, especially because he's clutching his blade, talking about how he can hear the sword and how it's a beautiful sound, because his whole thing is sound, because he's a sound writer guy. Overall, I came away liking this episode. Once the full few episodes are out and you can watch them in one after another, I think this makes a really good middle part. And let's see if they can stick the landing of these, because I like the last week's episode and I like this week's episode. Let's see if they can stick the landing with 46 and give us a good finale. If we don't get if we don't get an epilogue episode before Revise comes out. And with that said, I will see all of you guys next time.